Hey again, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Glad to see you again. As I've mentioned a time or two before, there's a lot of people that are making a lot of content out there. So if you are engaging in my discussions, I do appreciate it. I don't ask for donations. I don't give you a link to PayPal or try to sell you a coffee cup. The payments that I do appreciate are the comments in the comments section. And if you have questions that you'd like to like me to make a video on, just put it down there in the comments. That is what makes this interesting for me, since I know my story anyway. But anyway, so I've told you that I'm still going to continue to make content. I'm not going to just ring off and not tell you, because there are people that keep coming back, and so if you're engaging with me, I'll just continue to make video for you. So anyway, with that being said, I remembered finally what I meant to say in the last response. I shouldn't spend too much time on negative commenters, but I gotta go back to this. Before I get started, I have to go back to this vegetarian thing about me. All I said was that what is it about atheists and vegetarians that they have to like tell you about it? That no one really cares, but why? I guess that they identify it. Anyway, the comment that I was responding to said, since, what did he say? Since it bothers you so much. And that's the premise for his engagement, is because it bothers, which it doesn't really bother that much, but since it bothers you that much. And that's an exact statement that I've heard from several narcopaths that I know. So that just gives kind of a clear indicator that people can watch you for 4, 5, 6 years and then find the tiniest thing to twist off on you about. And to me, that's, it's very telling. Let's put it that way. Anyway, so since it bothers you so much, if I find out that something bothers somebody that I know or respect, I try not to do it. That's, they're trying to find some happy medium, but I don't just do something to someone just because it bothers them. It's a very immature thing to say, and he's a very immature guy. But anyway, good riddance from you. Anyway, so back to the channel and what we're genuinely talking about, or generally anyway. If you've been around a while, you know that I've had quite an experience with several narcopaths, and since have swept most of them. Really, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think everybody that was causing the narcopath trouble around me is pretty much sidelined at this point, which is good, because everything gets thousands of times better. Even if it's your last 10 minutes on earth and you realize what a narcopath has done to you, and you're free from the spell that they weave around you, it's worth it. It's worth the work. It's worth the effort to go no contact, to learn about the subject, to learn how to protect yourself from them, from all the stuff that they do, from the backstabbing and the lying and the manipulation. Just the stuff that they do is it's just nasty, really nasty behavior, and you're going to be better off for it, even if you have to go through some lonely or dry times from where you went to where you're going to be. Anyway, with that being said, Biski, I think it's Biski, mentioned that, yeah, let's go ahead and continue. Let's talk about what it's like to have to go to court with a narcopath. And so I've been very careful. I won't name any names, and that's all right, because if you're still watching, you know who you are, and the nasty little bastard lawyer that tried to destroy my life. You tried to destroy his life via him. I know y'all were teamed up and very much in agreement. You failed, didn't you? And there's nothing you can do about it now. So this is what I'm going to do, is warn people about your behavior. On that note, I did write a letter. I never did send it to the narcopath. You don't want to open up that can of worms. But if I ever catch you, if I catch somebody sick around you again, I will call the authorities. You will do time. Okay, so, which is probably why no one has died around you since the issues that we had, right? So anyway, going to court with one of these people, and by the way, we couldn't bring that up because we didn't have enough proof. It was, you got to have proof in the family court system. So going to court with the narcopath, when it became clear that things were finally at an end, and that the discard was about to happen. I had done every single thing. I've done previous videos about this before. I'd done every single thing that I could do to not just placate or keep the lid on this, what was about to blow up, but I felt like I was really being doing my duty as a husband and a father to this monster. And being that tomorrow is Mother's Day, this is actually pretty apt. One more thing that before I get started, I'm not picking on the women here. It's just in my experience, all the narcissists were women. So if you are a female, I think if the roles are reversed, probably in your life, it's probably similar, probably the same thing or similar. That if you're female, probably most of the narcissists are going to be male in your life. So I'm not picking. I'm just telling you what my experience is. So anyway, because the narcopath can't get close to you if it's just somebody at the grocery store or the gasoline station attendant, it's got to be someone who's close. That's why it's so extremely painful to have to become involved in one and then eventually have to, save yourself from them. Anyway, so going to court with a narcissist is, first of all, the court system is not used to settle any differences or issues. It's used as an absolute weapon. Most of the time when I was, because it went for a long time, and I'm so sorry for you, yours has been going on for a lot longer, like 17 years or something. The narcopath uses the court system just as a simple weapon because they know it's going to disrupt your life. They know that it's going to cost you money. Because I was willing to settle every single thing, even though I didn't want to initially. I was willing to settle every single thing in some form or fashion that we didn't have to go, but they would continually drag us in. And another one you mentioned, don't tell the narcopath that you're dragging you into court, etc., etc. I know that now. This was in my learning phase way back a long time ago when this was all initiated. But since then, I learned what was going on, and during that time, I learned a lot, and I did win every single point. By the way, legitimately, and I believe fairly at the end, because I stood the course and I started to figure out how the narcopath thinks. So anyway, and we're going to go through some of that too. But anyway, the narcopath uses the court system as a weapon. They're not there to try to hash things out, which is what the law is for. Is if someone's wrong this way, or civil, criminal or civil, any of those, it's to right wrongs or whatever's fair. They don't use that. They will file things and continue to file things and drag you back in just because, trying to get you to trip up and trying to get you to behave in a way or break down in a way that maybe they've been able successfully to do in the past. If they can get you to lash back out at some passive aggressive nonsense that they're doing, then of course it makes you look bad at the court. Like this one, the nasty little bitch that I say married to. And ladies, you just have to excuse me on that because you know what? I've been through it. So anyway, you can call your ex a bastard if you wish. And it's not going to bother me one bit. But during the very first part of this tearing down of what, and I'd probably built easily 85-90% of the life that was being torn down, she would drive up with her boyfriend in the car, and and he would have things to say to me, and you can't say anything back because if you lash back out at this with this drug addict in the car with her, then they're going to bring that up in court. Okay, and there's no proof of anything that he said or did, but there's proof because they're on the same team and they're watching and they're documenting every single thing. One time I called her a sorry bitch, and this is you're gonna have to excuse my language on this one. Just if you can't deal with it, fine. Okay, but anyway, so it's just so fucking gross. Okay, so she's pushing the buttons and pushing my button. And I called her a nasty bitch or a sorry bitch or something. This is the response. Thank you. Documented. See, they're pushing your buttons. They're doing this to get you to finally spill over and show the frustration and anger that they're causing. I saw something not too long ago on another forum. It was like, and I guess it's something I'd never heard before, but where somebody kicks the dog bites, and so he shoots the dog. and I guess it's like what do you call it, an antidote or something. That's similar to what they do. They'll push your buttons, push your buttons, push your buttons, do a bunch of stuff that people can't see, and then they're gonna, when you finally flip out, they're gonna use that against you. During this court session, except for literally that one time, I finally figured out, I knew better. These people aren't trying to settle anything. They're trying to destroy me, her and her mother, and then a gaggle of other nasty fucking people, man. And one of them looks just like, if you ever saw, what was it, Mrs. Beasley? This demon looks like Mrs. Beasley. So they're all kind of in cahoots, and I finally figured it out later. But you don't know what's going on because they're keeping it away from you, unless you're a psychic or something, which I'm most likely not. But anyway, so you can't figure out what they're doing until you start to use deductive reasoning with them. So in court, the way I had to finally deal with this in court was to really just shut down, okay, and to not take the bait, which was one of the hardest things I had to do, because they're baiting you the whole time. They're trying to get you to twist off. And like I said, it's just an evil way to behave, and it's their MO. This is what they do. They're not normal people. And most of it came down to custody of our children. And unfortunately, our oldest one didn't fare so well out of all this. And, they were trying to indoctrinate our youngest kid. And there were some turns of events where, I could, regain the primary custody of the kids. And when that happened, I did both times. So she ended up without custody of either one, which is actually a big deal. If I've mentioned to you, in Texas, it's very rare for the father to have primary custody in this state. It's very rare. You have to really make an impression on the legal system for that to take place, and she did. So anyway, go back to the court issues. I would willingly take papers if a processor came up. I wasn't trying to ditch anything. I wasn't trying to do anything, and I started out coming out very honest, if you will. And then I learned how to be cross-examined, which is, if you have an attorney and you're still in court, you need to learn how to be cross-examined. You need to learn when you can say, I don't understand the question, or I can't answer that question. And you need to learn to take it straight down to the wire. Like if they ask you, did you such and such, and it's not exactly right, by law, legally, you can answer, no, I did not do whatever, blah, 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 whatever they tell you. It has to be, the attorney has to be good enough, and her attorney really wasn't very good. I smoked him in the court. It was so funny. I shut him down, so it was awesome. It's actually just one of the crowning moments of my life, because they were going after me so hard. Shutting him down and regaining custody, it was really, and by the way, a caveat to Ortal, I'm not going to digress into it, but everything is so good now. And, I still have issues with my older son. He's been alienated from me, as you were asking. Youngest, that I'm the one that had primary custody, is absolutely dynamite, and it does have something to do with parenting and skills and how you handle yourself with your kids, okay? And if you don't have the custody of them, it's hard. It is. So anyway, back to how I shut them down, and I did, and it's very rare for that to happen. But here's why. I have the tools, started to realize how the narcopath behaves. There's a time when the division of property, when I said, just take it, and they said, no, we don't want it. I was like, okay, what? Now, 2 days ago you did. Now I tell you to just take it because I don't want it. And now you don't. They do just nearly the exact opposite of what you say. I'm like, ding, okay. So now I have a little bit of information on how to deal with this person. Okay, so one, don't let them, you're going to push your buttons, but don't let them see it, okay? Number two, learning how the legal system works. If you have to get up on really getting up on the stand, really, over custody stuff, you can't just do it at a table with the judge. Oh no, we're going to go through the entire thing. Looks like, some sort of thing on TV. It's just ridiculous. that, and then learning how they behave and how they try to do the opposite of what it is they think you want. Which, by the way, the commenter that said, don't say, you don't like being drugged into court, you are right about that, by the way. If you said, fine, let's go to court, they would probably not want to go. So there's this oppositional defiance disorder that goes along with these narcopaths. So I learned those three things. The other thing I did, which is completely backwards to what everybody else will tell you, is I started monitoring their activities very, very closely. I didn't go, even though I was no contact, they said, don't look. No, I'm watching things and watching what's going on, because you don't know exactly when you're going to find something that's going to help your case. So you have a judge, and you have these attorneys in the court, and you have these social workers coming in. And I know that social workers are necessary in sometimes, but in these cases, they're not. They're just using it as, again, it's another weapon against you, or counseling. There's two things that happened that I'm going to share with you, which, again, besides shutting her attorney down, nasty, nasty little prick. Anyway, besides shutting him down, two things happened. We had to go into a social worker's an office, and at this time I started to figure out, it's like, this is they're not trying to settle anything. This is a weapon and oppositional defiance disorder, what she uses, or what she does. She uses behaviors like that. So the social worker looks at me and says, so do you think there's any reason why she shouldn't be a parenting or a bad mother? Listen very closely. I said, no, I see no reason, which forced her to say the same thing. So she looks, do you think there's any reason, like they're looking for drug addiction or alcoholism or violence or something? And she says, no, I don't see any reason. The social worker took her book and just shut the book and put it down, because we were there to find out if I was a fit parent or not. Okay, so you follow me on this. So then we go into where there's these couples in this room. It's disgusting. It really is. So I go in with this. I had a girlfriend at the time, not from here, by the way, and there were probably 5 or 6 divorcing couples in this room. Again, I knew exactly what to do because I've been watching how these people behave, and even the social workers and the psychologists, a lot of them, they're just like by the book. I started to learn that too. She put down, she says, write all the things. This is so great. She says, write down all the things that you want to change about the person that you're divorcing. Well, I put nothing. Okay, I don't want to change anything about her. And then when it got around, and she made everybody read these out loud. Okay, so I said, no, I don't want to change a thing about her. So when it got around to her turn, she had a list, the longest list in the room, of all this shit she wanted to change about me. And the social worker, the psychologist, whether the anti-marriage counselor, whatever she was, looks at her and goes, okay, now, all those things that y'all want changed, now go in the mirror and look in the mirror and go, change this about yourself first. I knew how this started to work. So when you realize how they behave, it's really, really simple. They're very predictable, and they're very stupid people. That's why they rely on gaslighting, lying, tearing your reputation down, all the bag of tricks they use, because they're not creative. They're very, very stupid people. And once you realize how they operate, it's like they all operate out of the same book. So anyway, this is kind of in a nutshell the high points of how I made it through. And things, like I said, with one of our sons, which is adult, actually has kids himself now, things aren't so great. But I did what I could, and I didn't have primary custody really for very long. And then the other ones, it's just dynamite. I can't even tell you how wonderful it is. And we'll get the other kiddo, hopefully, to come back around sometime, because they have done a really good job of alienating him from me. Oh, and by the way, they tried to say that I alienated our second kiddo, even though he didn't live with me. See, they come up with catchphrases and terms, and they don't even know what they're saying about half the time. But anyway, so if you are still having to deal with these narcopaths, I can't imagine 17 years. That's a long time in family court. I don't know your whole story, and it just doesn't sound like maybe your attorney really doesn't know. Oh, by the way, I was willing to go homeless. That's another thing. I was willing to give everything to the attorney because half of zero is zero, and that they could have zero. I would have gone homeless to get this over with, and so I bought and paid for the very best legal advice that I could, and it turned out very well. So the narcopath, she pretty much hung herself almost every single time in every single scenario, and it's so funny. That's what they wanted, and at the end of the day, they didn't win, did they? And I have a great YouTube channel and hopefully still a bunch of subscribers. Hopefully you're still with me, and some of you already know, and maybe you're not getting the notifications. And if you are, come back, say something down below. I'd like to hear your stories. If you want to continue talking about what it's like to try to parent with a narcopath and going to court especially, then I've got that covered too in those subjects. So anyway, I hope that this video finds you well. I hope that helps somebody, and I hope to see you all again real soon. Thank you.